Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mir. Here we are on day 77 and I'm continuing the story of 12 iron sandals. Remember, the princess had, after throwing the lizard skin into the hearth, having it burn up, had been instructed by her husband before he was whisked away that the only way that she would be able to find him was to wear out 12 iron pairs of sandals, to wear out 12 iron staffs, and to eat 12 loaves of iron bread. Now, it so turns out that when her last pair of sandals was wearing out, her last staff was bent, and she had but a small amount of iron bread left to eat. She found herself at the kingdom of her husband. She stood outside the palace gate, waiting to see if he would come out, but he never did. And finally, she heard from a passerby that the king, after having returned from a trip abroad, had never appeared again. He lay supposedly in his bed ill, while a wicked woman ruled over the kingdom. Upon hearing this, the princess sat down just outside the palace gate, and she put in her lap a golden necklace. She put it there as if it was for sale. Not much time passed before the wicked woman that ruled over the kingdom came out. Now, some had said that she was the wife of the king. Others said that there had never been a marriage, so how could she be the wife? But all knew that it was not well advised to cross her. This wicked woman saw the beautiful necklace the princess had and immediately wanted it. She asked how much she could purchase it for, and the princess replied that it had been given to her by someone very special, and it was truly priceless. But if she were to sell it, she would sell it in order to spend the night in the bedchamber of the king. Well, the wicked woman, she did not agree to this, or at least not immediately. She threatened and cajoled and tried to strike up another bargain, but the princess, she would not budge. Well, finally, the wicked woman agreed and told the princess to meet her not at the palace gate, but at the palace entrance, just as the sun set. The princess, of course, arrived early. The doors of the palace opened, and the wicked woman took the princess by the hand and led her through halls to the bedchamber of the king. She opened the door, pushed the princess in, and said, "I hope you enjoy yourself," closed the door and locked it. The princess, well, she was shocked by what she saw. It was worse than she had imagined. The king lay there upon a bed, a canopied bed, silken sheets. She could not detect his breath. But what was the worst was that he was covered with thousands of needles, piercing every part of his body. She only knew one thing to do, which was to begin to pull these needles out. Now the needles were sharp at either end, and as she began to pull the needles out from his feet first, it pricked her fingers. As she pulled more and more of these needles out, her fingers began to bleed. But the amazing thing was that wherever she pulled the needles out, the king's skin went from looking pale and almost dead-like to regaining a color of life. She continued to pull and pull, minute after minute, hour turning into hour. His breath began to relax, come in easy, steady breaths. She could, if she placed her hands in the right place, feel the pulse of his heart as it beat ever more contentedly. All she had left was a hand and the king's face, and she continued to pull, fingers now dripping blood. Now, on the face, all that was left were the eyelids, and she began to work on these, but could see that the sky was beginning to pale out through the window. She had but a dozen left when the door creaked open and the cackled voice of the evil woman rang out. "Leave! Leave here now, and don't ever come back unless you have something more precious than that necklace." The princess turned toward the wicked woman and pointed to her earrings, which were hung in such a way with the most beautiful crystals, clear, brilliantly colored crystals. They were much more valuable than the necklace. The queen, of course, or the wicked woman, asked, "How much?" And we'll leave the story there tonight. Find out what happens next.